She's collapsing, folks. She's collapsing. Donald Trump's inexperienced personal attorney, who's now serving as the lead federal prosecutor in Virginia, is collapsing before our eyes. I guess maybe you need to be an experienced prosecutor when you take on some of the biggest cases in federal prosecutorial history. Like, I don't know, going after the former FBI director on a frivolous criminal case, James Comey, or then going after New York Attorney General Letitia James, a sitting attorney general, on what seems to be another frivolous criminal case. So Trump's former personal attorney, an insurance lawyer who likely wasn't even qualified to have been Donald Trump's lawyer in the cases that Trump was involved in civilly and otherwise before this most recent term. Her background: she's a beauty pageant contestant. She was hanging out around Mar-a-Lago. I guess Trump met her and said, "All right, Lindsey Halligan, you're going to be my personal attorney." Anyway, so she became the lead federal prosecutor. She's been in those grand jury rooms all by herself. We don't know what the hell she told the grand jury when it comes to the James Comey case, because we know that the only people that Comey that could be potentially in this indictment, person one and person three, we've known what these individuals have said, and they don't say what is purported to be in this indictment that they said. So unclear what's going to happen there. Then in the New York Attorney General Letitia James case, it was reported that Lindsey Halligan basically didn't tell anybody in the DOJ that she was going to the grand jury room by herself. And then there seems to be a lot of incorrect facts and just things that are not, criminal, or just completely bizarre and false in a very short indictment there involving New York Attorney General Letitia James. But now Lindsey Halligan, she may just be disqualified from the case. When I say she's collapsing, I mean, there's a number of motions that have been filed to have these cases, at least the Comey case, dismissed. But one of the most prominent ones is that Lindsey Halligan's not really a prosecutor. I mean, she's pretending to be one. We see a lot of pretenders working in United States Attorney's Office on interim basis. You have like Alina Habba, you've got some of the other people, across the country. But was Halligan even a federal prosecutor at the time in the Comey case when she went into the grand jury room? Or did she basically freelance, go there all alone, all by herself, and never actually did the paperwork or went through the steps? I mean, a way to think about it is like the SAT exam, right? You have to write your name on it, and then you get whatever it is, X hundred points for just putting your name on the exam. But if you don't put your name on the exam, you can't turn in the SAT, right? So you don't even get to the outcome. So thinking, at least in my terms with SATs, you kind of, when you're going after Comey, you kind of have to hit the perfect score, or at least what I grew up with, that was a 1600. So it's like a federal prosecutor who needs to hit the 1600, but doesn't put their name on the paper to begin with. So what'd Comey's lawyer do? Right away, Fitzpatrick, great lawyer, Fitzgerald, great lawyer. He files a motion, disqualify her. She's not a real lawyer. She's not a real prosecutor, rather. Get rid of her. So was filed in the existing courtroom where Comey's at. That now got transferred to another judge, Judge Cameron Curry, a Clinton-appointed judge, because of potential conflict issues, which we'll talk about. This is kind of the standard protocol when you're seeking this type of disqualification motion. So now this judge is going to do a whole hearing on the disqualification of Halligan. If she's disqualified, she was the only federal prosecutor who signed her name on the indictment. Boom. This case could be dismissed right away, potentially. And I think there's a good argument there. Now, also, we know that Lindsey Halligan was sending DMs. The lead federal prosecutor was sending DMs to a very well-known reporter, Ann Bauer, who you all know. She's a great reporter, Anna. And she starts DMing Anna, who covers lots of these cases. And she's like, "Anna, I think you're wrong about some of the facts here." And Anna's like, "Okay, I'm happy to report it differently, but you want to just tell me what I'm wrong about?" And it goes into this very weird stuff where it seems that Halligan was almost going to start to talk about what went down inside the grand jury, even though she didn't give specific facts. The fact that you have the federal prosecutor talking to a reporter about potential grand jury conduct is also like unheard of. And then what was it, like 5 to 10 days after this DM conversation, Lindsey Halligan then goes to the reporter and says, "Oh, by the way, this was all off the record." And the reporter was like, "What do you mean this was all off the record? You never said it was off the record. Like I view this as an on the record conversation." And then Halligan's like, "No, it's not." So the fact that you don't even know how to interact with the press, why the hell the lead federal prosecutor is the one directly talking to a member of the press is so strange. I want to bring in Harry Litman to make sense of this. This is, Harry's a former top federal prosecutor out of the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, former top federal prosecutor out of Maine Justice. So, Harry, you've seen this all. I mean, not only is she acting inexperienced, but she's acting like an intern, like someone who just became a first-year law student. Like, what?
I got to tell you, I mean, I don't know whether you think she was qualified to be his private attorney based on her insurance knowledge and beauty pageantry, but she's not qualified to be a legal intern. Let's just go to where you just were. She reaches out to the reporter and just starts chatting. Anybody knows the rules. You know, you mess with reporters, which I literally never did as U.S. attorney, and most of my colleagues didn't either. But it's like putting your hand in a tank of piranhas. You absolutely know that you got to get the off the record if that's what you're doing up front. And she just looked like a total rube that a few days later she did this ham-handed, "Oh, by the way, this is all off the record." Hannah Bauer's like, "You've got to be kidding me." And that was just, so that's the sort of ignorance and amateurishness. She's also in these conversations with her kind of a bully. She won't really say what she's getting at, but she insults her and says she's, going to ruin her credibility. And I don't, Ben, you mentioned this. I think there's at least a couple spots where she's playing footsie with the grand jury stuff, which she is not allowed to reveal. She actually says, another indication of her rank ignorance, that the New York Times revealed grand jury information, which they're not allowed to. That's just, completely ignorant. The New York Times, if it gets it, can reveal grand jury information. It's one of the reasons why prosecutors can't give it. But I think she was absolutely, suggesting what was in the grand jury in at least a couple spots. So that whole thing is both, amateurish and maybe, actually criminal potentially to reveal grand jury information. More generally, so here's what's going on. We did see this with Alina Habba. And so Comey comes in with his 2 motions to dismiss, and one of them says she's been invalidly appointed. And you're right, she's the only one who goes in there, the only one who signs it. And they're saying, Lindsey Halligan, Daffy Duck, each is equally official as the U.S. attorney. She's just not. And it's null and void. And remember, although Comey just says dismiss it with prejudice, I think they're in a total box if it is dismissed, because he was at the last day or last couple of days of the statute of limitations. So I don't see how they can go back and kind of unscramble the eggs. Now, it's being heard by a judge in a different district. The notion is Nachmanoff deals with, and they did the same for Alina Habba, deals with the U.S. Attorney's Office every day. Is just an appearance of conflict or bias if he were to actually adjudicate it. So it's been chipped off to a senior district judge in South Carolina, I believe. But I think the motion just under the law is pretty strong. The law is all intricate and complicated, but the basic idea is you can't do an end run around the requirement of having Congress weigh in and play their part. And the position that the U.S. is trying to establish would permit them to just do exactly that, sort of interim appointment after interim appointment after interim appointment. So I think the stronger read by far, and it's the one that we have when this came up, is that she was invalid, to put it as U.S. attorney. And by the way, what were they thinking when she was put in? I think it was a Friday. Everyone was kind of holding their breath because would they realize the administration had just had their hat handed to them in the Alina Habba case? How could they make the same mistake twice? And it's just another indication of really a sort of disorganized, chaotic kind of Keystone Cops operation there. But yeah, Halligan, everything we've seen, she looks kind of worse and worse. And, talk about a debacle. It wouldn't be all her fault. Some of the things she's doing are all her fault. But if it's actually, they went so far and so fast to do this reprisal prosecution, and they had a non-U.S. attorney actually do it. And, as to that point, Ben, we've talked before. Why is she alone in the grand jury room? Nobody in the U.S. attorney's office will even sit with her. Even when they arraigned him, they had to bring in people from another district. No one wants any part to do with this stinker, this dog of a case that's really rank reprisal by the president. So anyway, every snippet we learn about Lindsey Halligan, she seems worse. And we could find out in fairly short order that she just completely wasn't qualified under the statutes and regs to be there. And I agree with you at that point. I don't see what they can do to revive the prosecution against Comey. Now, it's the kind of thing that Trump, of course, will rail about liberal judges, etc. And the more definitive, clean rebuke of him would be a jury verdict. But, Pat Fitzgerald is the defense lawyer here who's saying, Jim, buddy, we take every shot we have. We can't sort of mess around and go to the jury if we don't need to. This is your liberty, potentially. Let's take these 2 shots. And he's taken 2 good shots. There's this. And then the other one that does stay before Nachmanoff is the motion to dismiss it because it's a reprisal prosecution. So those are now going to proceed on separate tracks with separate judges, but they could, either of them has a very strong prospects for A, succeeding, and B, having the case dismissed. And then just one final point on the reprisal is they've asked for discovery. So they're going to want documents that go to the decision and who made it and how it was made. We know pretty clearly Trump and why. But you'll see the White House try to fight that tooth and nail. But, the executive privilege and attorney-client privilege are not absolute. They yield when there's a strong requirement to have evidence. Typically in these cases, there isn't, but this one's the strongest selective prosecution claim I've ever seen. So that's going to be, I think, a skirmish coming up before Nachmanoff in the next few weeks.
Right. So expect 2 things. I think Nachmanoff grants the discovery the same way we saw in the Abrego Garcia case, Middle District of Tennessee, which you and I said, remember our reporting back then? Yeah. That was an appetizer for what's going to happen here. That's exactly what's happening. The same way in Abrego, discovery was ordered. I think there will be a finding that the threshold was made for vexatious prosecution. Demand discovery. That means Halligan can have to turn over more DMs. What's going on? You and I also did a video about Trump's Truth Social messages and where was he communicating with Pam Bondi on that. That could be a treasure trove of information as well. So all of that could potentially be opened up now in the discovery process. That moves in one direction. Then there is the disqualification that moves in front of the other judge that we mentioned, Judge Curry. And the thing here, though, is that in most of these indictments, mostly every other one that would take place, it's more than just one lawyer signing the document. You have a bunch of lawyers' names on the pleading. So if just say one gets disqualified, which would never happen like this, but if that happens, there's 3 others or 4 others who are listed in the charging document. So it's okay, you can't be the lawyer, but these people can be the lawyer. But because she was the only one, there's then 0 names on the document. So it's a fake document. So the document goes away, the charges get dismissed. we'll keep everybody posted. But a reminder, subscribe to Harry Litman's YouTube channel. It's called Talking Feds. Subscribe to his Substack. It's called Talking Feds. And subscribe to his podcast. It's called Talking Feds.
One quick point to add, please. Ben, if we get that discovery, there's going to be, as you were just saying, DMs back and forth where she's going to be telling the White House, nobody will come with me. They all say it's bad. You do it anyway. Here's where the door is and what you say. That's going to be a just terrific embarrassment for this.
Maybe Harry, Harry, you're in my videos. We've been hitting a million views on these videos. So maybe we do one on that. The discovery. Could this open up Pandora's box is a good one. Anyway, that's how Harry and I think about how we're going to do videos just on the spot like that. Hit subscribe to Harry's channels. Talking Fed, search it on YouTube now. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.